South Africa is getting a big hand of help transition from its reliance on coal. The United States, Britain, France, Germany, and the European Union announcing an initiative worth almost 131 billion rand. President Matamela Ramaphosa hailing this deal, saying it will increase our energy security and create jobs. Let's discuss this now with energy expert Jesse Burton, who's from the Energy Research Center at the University of Cape Town. Jesse, good afternoon. The president saying this is a watershed moment, is it?
Good afternoon, Dan. Thanks for having me. Definitely, this is a really big deal. As you say, not only is it big in terms of monetary terms, 131 billion rand or 8.5 billion US dollars, but it's globally significant for other reasons too.
What are the implications? What's the significance here?
Well, a deal like this has never been done before in the world. So a group of donor countries coming together with a coordinated group from the South African government and negotiating a deal like this hasn't happened. It's the first time. It's a very large amount. It's been country-led. And kind of globally, people are looking at this and thinking that this could be a blueprint or a test case for how you could structure these kinds of political and financial deals to support developing countries to transition away from fossil fuels. So it kind of locks into a long-standing debate around how developed countries, how rich countries who've emitted most of the greenhouse gases that are causing climate change, how they have to support developing countries to transition. And they haven't stepped up until now. Yeah. There's a huge fight in the...
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And the president has made that point, that big fight, that we didn't emit most of these gases. You guys need to help us. So we should see that in that way. So it's significant indeed. And of course, South Africa is a big emitter of things like sulfur dioxide from the coal mines.
Indeed. So we're one of the worst we have some of the worst air pollution in the world from sulfur and nitrous oxides and dust. But we're also a large greenhouse gas emitter, the 12th largest in the world.
So this money should be used to transition from coal to something else. But trade unions have been very concerned, and there's been lots of emotions around it as well, in terms of jobs. I mean, at least 100,000 jobs in this particular mining sector would be at stake in this transition. Should this money, this 130 billion rand, be used, therefore, to make sure that the transition is smooth, including protecting jobs?
Absolutely. So what the deal has in it, it's very much centered around what's called a just transition. And a just transition just means that as you phase out fossil fuels and build a decarbonized economy, you don't leave anyone behind. You support workers, you support communities in Mpumalanga. So the deal is very much built around that. It says we're going to look after people. We're going to do retraining and reskilling of workers. It's a long-term partnership. So although it's for 3 to 5 years, this initial sum is for 3 to 5 years. The idea is it'll run for longer than that. And so you'll support the transition. We'll decarbonize the power sector by repowering and repurposing Eskom plants, for example, but doing that in a fair and just way. And the deal goes beyond that. It also says we have to build new sectors like green hydrogen, like renewable energy, like electric vehicles, that will create new jobs for people. So it's very comprehensive in that way around supporting South Africa's long-term ambition to decarbonize.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, 130 odd billion rand by any stretch of imagination. I guess accountability and transparency of how it's going to be implemented are going to be very key, and energy experts like yourselves, and of course we have climate change activists in South Africa, plus you've got the trade unions who want to protect the interests of their members. This deal is going to be watched very, very hawkishly.
I hope so. Look, we don't want what happened with Medupi, with the Medupi loan, where the South African government got a huge loan and they invested in the wrong things and people didn't really have a say in that. Just transition also means that people have a say about their futures. So the deal has said that there'll be an inclusive task force, and I think civil society and experts will need to watch very carefully to make sure that there is transparency and accountability, of course. There'll also need to be some planning around how we spend the money. You know, what exactly is our investment plan into the future? How much of this is going to go into coal plants versus coal mines versus retraining programs? You know, we'll need to develop that all very carefully. And certainly we'll also need to make sure the money arrives. We want it to come. We want to make sure the terms that it comes in are very good for South Africa. So it will be grants, some concessional loans, some other kinds of instruments. And we want to make sure that the terms of any of those loans are good for South Africa as well.
Yeah, because that could be a sticking point. I mean, if the terms are a little bit hard, it will be very difficult to really get it going. Is there anything else from an energy side that when you look at this deal, besides, as you said, being a big one, being a significant one, that we should be concerned about, besides also how it's implemented and that we need a very good plan? Is there anything else that you would raise as a concern?
I think we want to make sure it's focused on the parts of our transition that can't be financed by the private sector. So new renewable energy is very, very well subscribed in South Africa for the most part, privately owned renewable energy, but there are huge gaps. Eskom needs support for its debt. Eskom needs support for repowering those plants. At the moment, it isn't clear how we'll support the closure of coal mines. There are a lot of abandoned coal mines in a place like Mpumalanga, which are really impacting people's livelihoods. So those are really key. And of course, other kind of sticking points in the South African energy transition is that we really facing a huge blockage around transmission infrastructure. So we can't talk about decarbonizing. In fact, we can't even talk about energy security in South Africa because we need to build out a whole lot of grid to actually connect plants to consumers. And that's, I think, a key enabler of allowing us to transition, keep the lights on, meet our what's called a nationally determined contribution, and also implement a just transition.
Yeah, and also in that transition, you don't want to turn parts of Mpumalanga into ghost towns.
Of course not. So really, people are thinking quite a lot, especially the provincial government, and there's a presidential climate commission which is looking at this as well. Exactly how do we avoid that? And I think this deal is designed...
In fact, in the next hour, I'm hoping to speak to a member of that presidential climate change committee, and they happen to be attending COP26 at this stage. Yeah. So you're saying the provincial government must be involved, and I guess the local communities themselves in those areas, because some of those towns have just been born or established because of the coal mining.
Of course, people moved there because there was opportunity. In fact, Mpumalanga's still got in-migrancy. But the other part of that is that, as you said, there's very bad air pollution. There's incredible water pollution from coal mining, from abandoned mines. And so part of this just transition package really needs to look both at the social consequences of phase out and addressing that, but also the environmental legacies, because that environmental legacy puts new opportunities at risk. It means that there's a lot of degraded land, which undermines the potential for agriculture, for example, even though Mpumalanga has some of the best agricultural land in the country.
Yes.
So you need to kind of put all these intersecting challenges together. And this is, of course, not the only answer, but having money that is well priced, having finance and grants available to do that is an enabling condition.
Yeah, Jesse, thank you very much. You're a star. Thanks for talking to us here on eNCA, DSTV channel 43. I'll be talking to somebody who's a member of that Presidential Climate Change Commission in the next hour. They are attending COP26 as well to get their sense of how significant this deal is. Thank you.